Construction is a sector of the American economy that may receive the hardest hit from Trump's crackdown on immigration. Construction employs a number of undocumented migrants, and Florida is one of the U.S. states that could possibly be affected the most. Okay, let's take a closer look now at how President Trump's immigration policies could possibly impact the U.S. construction industry. And for that, we are joined by Marc Norman. Marc's an associate dean at New York University's Schack Institute of Real Estate. Marc, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Okay, so how do you think Trump's strict immigration and deportation policies are going to impact the availability of labor in the construction industry in the U.S.? And remember, this is a nation that says right now it is short at least 1.5 million homes and needs new construction ASAP.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to definitely be inflationary because when you constrict labor supply, prices just inevitably go up. I am going to note that it's only been a week, and I think some of this is a little bit of shock and awe, a little bit of photo op. So I'm wondering how much of an impact it's really going to have, or if this is a kind of, need to really sort of like show the world that he's, delivering on his promises early in the administration.
Yeah, Donald Trump does have a history of doing things in big fashion in front of the camera, and from what I understand, the ICE and other officials who are going into these areas have been told to go in camera ready, so there may be some truth in what, I mean, that's the actual word they used. So
Yes.
Let's talk about the impact of increased deportations on overall project timelines and cost. Depending on which research that you do check out, it's somewhere between a fourth and a third of construction workers are immigrants.
Yes, I mean, the interesting thing for me, though, is that there were over 1 million deportations under Biden, about the same number as the first Trump administration. And so construction costs are always high, and they've gotten high because of a number of things, whether it be supply chain or constrained labor supply. So I think that's always going to be a problem. And I wonder if it's actually going to have a demonstrable impact, just given that we already have the constrained labor supply.
Right.
But I don't think deportations are going to be as high in certain sectors because the administration knows that they're important.
Picking on what you talked about, I don't know about the million under the Biden administration, but I did find some numbers that showed between 2008 and 2013, then President Barack Obama deported some 300,000 undocumented immigrants, and the result, housing prices went up and construction slowed.
Yes, yes. And, and I think we've seen that, right, because you add to that the pandemic, you add to that supply chain issues, and you add to that, continued disasters, right? Los Angeles, Asheville, North Carolina, and others, Florida before that. So we have these problems being exacerbated that the labor shortages aren't helping. So I think that's, already a problem that's going to get worse.
And even before those disasters that you just chronicled, a lot of things changed after the housing collapse more than 20 years ago. Remember, housing construction basically stopped, so longtime construction workers quit, moved on to other jobs or retired. Immigrants filled that void. Now, presuming he is successful at rounding up undocumented immigrants, new employees would then be needed in the construction industry. And as you said at the very start, would they demand higher wages and better benefits? Would costs go up?
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't know that there are enough Americans at any wage willing to take on sort of dangerous jobs in the construction industry. And so one of the things I just would look out for is what sectors actually are targeted in the immigration crackdown. Because I'm wondering if we won't see as much crackdown at construction sites and more in other sectors and potentially other states where, to your earlier point, the photo ops might be good, but it might not have a huge effect on these kind of very intractable issues around costs.
Reading between the lines.
Agriculture and construction specifically.
Yeah, and reading between the lines, Trump is a businessman. He knows that undocumented workers in many cases pick fruits and vegetables and also man the front lines in the construction industry. And if this would dry up overnight within a short period of time, it just seems to the common sense that the economic disruption would be huge.
Yes. I mean, at the same time, when you listen to some of the rhetoric earlier last week, I think their notion is also that they want to bring down costs in other ways, whether that's pressuring the Fed to reduce rates, whether that's trying to cut red tape and regulation. But I think that's kind of offsetting. You might just end up where you were before, right? If you're increasing labor costs to such an extent because of these immigration crackdowns, you might negate the other effects of, let's say, less regulation or lower interest rates.
Okay, you have 30 seconds. Tell me if we're going to be hearing about this in 6 months. Is this still going to be our lead story?
I think there is going to be a lot of talk about this, particularly, especially because of the rebuilding after the disasters. And I think this story will stay at the top of the headlines.
Okay, Marc Norman, always a pleasure. Good stuff, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.